Ferrari just rolled out a rear-end upgrade in Bahrain that could change the entire 2026 season, and rival teams are already questioning if it is even legal. On day 1 of week 2, with real grip and representative conditions, the SF-26 suddenly found almost 3/10 in the middle sector. Not through engine power. Not through drag reduction. Through a new diffuser trick that uses exhaust energy in a way nobody expected. Leclerc looked untouchable on short runs. Hamilton said the rear finally feels stable. Top speed hit over 328 km/h without drag reduction system. And now Red Bull and Mercedes are reportedly asking the FIA for clarification. This is not a small tweak. This could be a regulation gray area. And if Ferrari just found a loophole in the diffuser airflow rules, the championship fight may have shifted before the season even starts. Stay with me, because what Ferrari revealed today might force the FIA to make a decision that changes everything. And if you want to understand who is really ahead in 2026, subscribe now. Let's break down exactly what Ferrari brought to Bahrain. Because this was not a cosmetic update. It was a coordinated aerodynamic gamble. At the center of it all is that small element mounted just behind the exhaust outlet, sitting above the central section of the diffuser. At first glance, it looks harmless, compact, almost insignificant. But aerodynamics is not about size. It is about placement. Under the 2026 regulations, exhaust gases are more energetic due to the new fuel composition. Ferrari appears to be using that high-velocity exhaust flow to energize the upper surface of the diffuser. When you energize airflow in that region, you reduce separation. When you reduce separation, you increase stability in the low-pressure zone beneath the car. And when that happens, rear downforce increases without dramatically increasing drag. That is the key. Free rear load. Now think about Ferrari's weakness last week. Rear instability in medium to high-speed corners. Hamilton openly criticized the way the car would move under load. Today, that behavior looked reduced. Leclerc attacked fast entries with confidence. The car rotated cleanly through direction changes. It did not snap. It did not oscillate. That suggests the diffuser is working in harmony with the rear wing. And here is why the middle sector improvement matters so much. Medium speed corners expose balance flaws immediately. If the rear is unstable, drivers hesitate. If the rear is planted, they commit. The time gain in Sector 2 is not coming from straight-line speed. It is coming from trust. And trust equals lap time. But Ferrari did not only modify the diffuser area. They reinforced the floor edges with additional supports and introduced a revised cut ahead of the rear wheels. This appears aimed at stabilizing airflow sealing under the car, reducing porpoising and maintaining consistent suction. Visually, the car looked calmer over bumps. Less vertical movement. More predictable compression under braking. Then there is the cooling solution. After thermal concerns in week 1, Ferrari slightly widened the upper bodywork while keeping the lower side pod area tight. Modular cooling louvres allow them to adjust airflow without completely sacrificing aerodynamic efficiency. Today's configuration was partially open. Enough to maintain safe temperatures. Not enough to ruin top speed. And the top speed figure matters. Over 328 km/h without drag reduction system assistance. That tells you something important. The diffuser upgrade is not adding excessive drag. It is adding efficiency. But here is where the tension builds. The regulations state that exhaust gases cannot be used primarily to generate aerodynamic load. If Ferrari's exhaust wing is judged to intentionally redirect gases for downforce gain, rivals could challenge it. And reportedly, they already have. So Ferrari stands in a fascinating position. They may have unlocked extra rear stability. They may have solved last week's thermal collapse. They may currently hold the strongest qualifying package on the grid. But everything hinges on interpretation. If the FIA allows it, Ferrari keeps the advantage. If the FIA intervenes, the entire balance of the car could shift overnight. And in a regulation reset year, even a small force change can ripple through development plans. So day 1 of week 2 was not just about lap times. It was about risk. Ferrari went aggressive. They exposed their hand. Now the question becomes, will that bold move define the season? Or trigger a regulatory response that reshapes it completely? Now let's talk about Lewis Hamilton's session. Because this is where Ferrari's upgrade faced its real test. Morning sessions are about low fuel, soft tires, clean air, confidence laps. The afternoon is different. Heavy fuel, long stints, tire management. Lewis ran multiple extended runs between 15 and 20 laps. And this is where you truly see whether an aerodynamic concept works or collapses under load. The first thing that stood out was stability. Last week, Hamilton struggled with rear unpredictability. The car would move under braking. It would react nervously over curbs. Medium-speed corners exposed imbalance. Today, that behavior looked significantly reduced. The revised floor, combined with the energized diffuser flow, appears to have stabilized the rear platform. Hamilton was able to attack curbs without unsettling the car. That alone suggests structural improvement. But here is the nuance. While balance improved, rear tire thermal degradation still appeared toward the end of longer runs. Not dramatic. Not catastrophic. But present. The car remains aggressive on rear rubber. And this is where Ferrari's philosophy becomes clear. They are chasing peak aerodynamic efficiency and rotation. That gives them qualifying power. It gives them corner entry bite. But it increases the load on the rear tires under sustained fuel weight. So Ferrari now sits at an interesting crossroads. They have solved instability. They have likely gained middle sector performance. They have maintained top speed efficiency. But tire management remains slightly more demanding than rivals like McLaren. And here is the deeper strategic question. Can Ferrari tune the setup to protect rear tires without losing the diffuser advantage? Because diffuser performance depends heavily on ride height and airflow consistency. If they raise the car slightly to ease tire stress, they may sacrifice suction efficiency. If they lower it to maximize load, they increase mechanical stress. That balance is delicate. And delicate systems require precision. Now consider the competitive impact. If the exhaust wing remains legal, Ferrari likely enters race 1 as the favorite for pole position. Their one-lap pace looks formidable. Their rear platform appears more stable. Their hybrid mapping reportedly improves energy recharge rate, giving stronger deployment consistency on corner exit. But championships are not won on Saturday. They are built on Sunday. If rear degradation persists beyond 15 laps, strategy becomes reactive. And reactive strategies rarely control races. Meanwhile, rival teams are watching closely. Red Bull engineers are analyzing images. Mercedes engineers are reviewing airflow patterns. Because if Ferrari has discovered a legal way to energize diffuser flow using exhaust gases under these new fuel regulations, everyone will attempt to replicate it. Or protest it. Either way, Ferrari has forced the grid to respond. And that is powerful. Because in a regulation reset year, the team that dictates the first innovation wave often shapes the development direction for months. Day 1 of week 2 has made one thing very clear. Ferrari is not playing safe. They have committed. Now the only question left is whether that commitment becomes dominance or controversy. And the answer to that could arrive sooner than anyone expects. Now step back for a moment. Because what Ferrari did today was not just an upgrade. It was a signal. In a brand new regulation cycle, most teams arrive cautiously. Small adjustments. Conservative interpretations. Safe aerodynamic philosophy. Ferrari did the opposite. They brought a concept that directly touches a regulatory gray area. They exposed it in plain sight. They ran it aggressively on day 1. That is confidence. But it is also pressure. Because once you reveal a performance gain that visible, you force the FIA to look closely. And you force your rivals to react immediately. Now imagine the scenario. If the FIA reviews the exhaust wing and confirms it complies with the regulations, Ferrari gains more than lap time. They gain psychological dominance. Red Bull would need to redesign airflow structures around the rear crash zone. Mercedes would need to reconsider their diffuser sealing strategy. Development resources would shift overnight. And in a cost-controlled era, that shift is expensive. But if the FIA decides the concept breaches the rule prohibiting exhaust gases from being used to generate aerodynamic load, the consequences are just as dramatic. Ferrari would have to remove or redesign the component. Rear balance would change. Ride height philosophy might need adjustment. And all the correlation data gathered today would partially lose value. That is the risk of going bold. You either lead the field, or you reset your own progress. Now think about timing. This is week 2. There are only a handful of testing days left. If regulatory clarification arrives late, Ferrari's development direction could hang in limbo. Do they continue optimizing around the exhaust-energized diffuser? Or prepare a fallback configuration? Every hour matters. And here is the strategic layer that makes this fascinating. Ferrari did not need to reveal this now. They could have hidden it until race 1. Instead, they showed it in testing. That suggests they are confident in its legality. Or confident they can defend it technically. Either way, the message is clear. Ferrari is not reacting to the grid. They are trying to dictate it. Meanwhile, Leclerc's pace has already forced rivals to recalibrate expectations. Hamilton's long runs showed the car is far more predictable than a week ago. The thermal issues appear under control. The hybrid system recharge rate reportedly improved. Rear stability looks transformed. This is no longer the unstable prototype from week 1. This is a refined machine with a defined aerodynamic identity. But the championship will not be decided by innovation alone. It will be decided by sustainability. Can Ferrari manage rear tire degradation across full race simulations? Can the cooling package remain stable in hotter race conditions? Can the exhaust wing survive regulatory scrutiny? Day 1 of week 2 answered one question. Ferrari has speed. It may have even found something the rest of the grid did not anticipate. But it also opened a new battle. Not just on track, but in the FIA technical offices. And sometimes, in Formula 1, the fight off the track shapes the season just as much as the fight on it. The next few days in Bahrain will tell us whether Ferrari just engineered a masterstroke, or triggered the first controversy of the 2026 era. There is one more layer to this story that almost nobody is talking about. Development direction. Because when a team finds performance in a new regulation cycle, that discovery does not stay isolated. It reshapes everything. Ferrari's diffuser concept is not just about adding rear downforce. It changes how the entire car is balanced. More rear stability allows engineers to run a sharper front end. A sharper front end improves rotation. Better rotation reduces steering input mid-corner. Reduced steering input lowers front tire temperature. And that can unlock consistency over a stint. Do you see the chain reaction? One aerodynamic trick influences mechanical setup. Mechanical setup influences tire behavior. Tire behavior influences race strategy. And race strategy wins championships. If the exhaust-energized diffuser remains legal, Ferrari can now build the rest of the car around that stable rear platform. They can refine suspension geometry to exploit it. They can optimize energy deployment knowing the rear grip is more predictable. They can push qualifying simulations without fearing instability. That is a foundation. But foundations must hold under pressure. Because Bahrain is one thing. High downforce tracks are another. Street circuits are something else entirely. If this diffuser concept is highly sensitive to ride height or airflow turbulence, it could behave differently in traffic. And traffic reveals weaknesses. That is why Lewis Hamilton's feedback matters so much. He said the balance is much better. But he still asked for more front bite in certain corners. That tells you the car is improved. Not perfect. And perfection is what Ferrari will chase over the next few days. Now consider the grid reaction. Red Bull is unlikely to panic. They will analyze. They will test. They may even attempt their own interpretation of exhaust flow management. Mercedes will study airflow visualization carefully. Because if Ferrari has found a legal method to energize the diffuser without breaching the wording of the regulation, others will follow. But replication is not instant. Designing airflow paths around the rear crash structure is complex. Wind tunnel validation takes time. Manufacturing takes time. And time, at this stage of pre-season, is limited.